I'm back. Another week, another podcast. We've seemed to just create some like music upstate local artists podcast because I'm just like, there's a lot of people like yourself that's hit me up about just like talking musically and stuff like that. And I enjoy that for the most part. So what I want to do is introduce our next guest, and you can introduce yourself.
Hi, I am America Ray from Newark, New Jersey, and a current resident of the Capital Region.
And what do you do?
I am a songwriter associated with ASCAP for the last 16 years. I am a hip-hop artist, and I focus on the Latin, Afro, Latina lane of hip-hop.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to talk to you because, like, you've been songwriting, obviously, a very long time.
Yes.
And I think for, like, music, it's, like, a life thing, right? You start usually when you're, like, very young. So how did you, like, get into, like, songwriting and just, like, music in general? Like, what's the first things you remember hearing as a kid?
Songwriting has always been an escape for me. Growing up in Newark, New Jersey, it was very challenging with my both parents being from Central America. I think that songwriting is so broad that for me it has been more focused on expressing myself with influences from Brazil.
Oh.
Awkwardly, my first artist that I laid eyes on was Suicide, and she's a Brazilian artist.
Oh, I've never heard of her.
Yeah. I grew up on Taylor Dane and Janet Jackson, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with Janet Jackson.
Yeah.
I listened when I was a kid. My father would put on just like a myriad of old music. Well, I consider old music at the time, but I think it like gave me a sound for what like music really was in a greater sense. So I listened to a lot of Carlos Santana when I was a kid, like the guitar work. I wanted to play a guitar as a kid. I had no dexterity in my fingers at all to play the guitar at a high level. And then it was Frank Sinatra.
Oh, yeah.
So a very, like, in my eyes, I was just like, how can a man, like, to me, singing is very feminine. Mm-hmm. But then when you hear a man with just, like, the perfect, like, deep and, like, can, like, carry it, and I'm just like, holy fucking shit. Amazing. Like, I'm just like, who, it's just, like, it's so beautiful to hear, like, music that's generated from the human body. Like, it's just like you don't need anything else but your voice, and like when people sing, it's very piercing to like the soul. I'm just like, holy shit. Like,
he's a legend. He's amazing.
There's a few people like that. I mean, you have like just escape me Spanish artist.
Yeah,
just lost it. But there's an old Spanish singer I used to listen to all the time, and it was from Puerto Rico, and it was very amazing what people can do with their voices. Mark Anthony.
You have John Cicada.
Yeah. You have
Cheyenne. He's a legend too. We have Ricky Martin.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of Yanni? He's just like instruments, just like heavy instruments and like acoustics and flutes and stuff like that, which I did. Yeah, and it was just people like that who can just are just crazy. Like I can't even think of it. Bob Marley, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And then I can't think of the young man who died very young. He played the guitar backwards. Killing me right now. Played it upside down.
Hendrix?
Jimi Hendrix. Yeah. Played the guitar upside down.
Wow.
Like, these people are just completely amazing.
Multi-talented individuals.
So when you were like growing up, right, and you were listening to this music, were you were obviously like singing along to it, right?
Yes.
When did you like get interested in music? Like, I'm assuming like through school you were doing maybe chorus or stuff like that.
Well, I've always been into talent shows as a dancer.
Okay.
I've always been into the arts. Dancing and theater has always been a passion for me. I think that listening to music and feeling the music and digesting its emotions has allowed me to become a detailed writer. I think that as a dancer, the art of expression alone, without words, just sound alone, has empowered my approach to songwriting.
You see the rhythm in it.
Yeah, just the flow of the words, the detail of every word, and how every single word can enforce a feeling is empowering alone.
What did you dance? Like,
I've danced hip hop, reggae, gospel music. I've done some weddings as a praise dancer. I've done talent shows, and when I was little in the Bronx, I did a little, professional dancing as a child.
oh,
Yeah.
that's a heavy resume. That's a
yeah.
so you dance.
I do. I love dancing at weddings. Like, that's my new thing. Like, I'm open to always dancing at weddings.
Wow. Yeah. I danced when I was a kid. My dad wanted me to dance because he had heard like athletes danced at a high level as kids, and the dexterity stays with them, just like a lot of kids who do like gymnastics and stuff like that are some of like the best combat athletes, because they're just like so flexible. Dexterity is crazy. So they put me in dance. So I did salsa, tap dancing, and when I lived in Connecticut, when I lived in Bridgeport, I was on the step team.
Nice.
Because we didn't have a gym, we didn't have a basketball court, so we didn't have like regular sports, so the only thing we could do was like stomp or step. And it was funny to see, not funny, but like to me, because it's like if I look back, I wouldn't do step now because I know I'm not in rhythm, but I just looking at the younger me doing it is just like,
wow,
I can't believe, like, because you could hear it, like the people that like when you actually nail it and you're like making sounds with your like slapping off your shoes, your chest, stomp under the, and just like it was cool. Yeah, it's culture, it's cool. It's just like tap dancing. I thought that was incredibly hard. The ankle mobility you have to have, like to hit the top of your shoe and the bottom of your shoe and just do that in a rhythm, in the sound, to the music. I'm just like, I'm sweating. I'm just like, my ankle hurts. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And you see these guys with like these muscular calves and they're just like, and I'm just like, whoa. Like, so, and then you like grow up, you get older, because I didn't dance after that. So like, but I still understand the beauty behind it. Like when you see these dance videos from these like big studios, or even small studios on like Facebook that pop up, and they're just like killing it, and it's just like, wow, that takes a lot of practice. Like the people who can like pop and lock and stuff like that, like completely amazes me.
Everything has its own sound. It is amazing.
Yeah, because it's like some of it is like ballet. I took ballet for a while.
Oh wow.
And that was very interesting, just like how light on the feet you have to be, but how committed to the moves you have to be, but like to jump from one side to the other, land on the tips of your toes, not making a huge noise, momentum and all this stuff. And I'm just like, this is incredible. Like this is athletics at another level, and like in performance wise.
Right. And even in dance, songwriting, every word shared has its own momentum.
Right. So let's get into that. So you did dancing. You listened to this music as a kid that influenced you. So when did it become like, I'm going to write songs for people? Like, were you writing songs for yourself at first and then someone approached you?
Well, it started close to high school. I was doing more poetry, and people were moved already by the way I danced at talent shows. I actually came up here for Job Corps in Glenmont in 2002.
Okay.
And I was immediately drawn to, okay, let's do talent shows. Let's do talent shows and let me perform.
Right.
And people were already moved by that. But before I got to Job Corps, I was going to humanities in Manhattan, and people were already moved by my poetry. So I said, okay, if I can move people by dancing in my poetry, then maybe I should get into doing what I see big people do. Janet Jackson is one of my number one inspirations, and her songwriters have done an amazing job creating lyrics that identify her, that move her in her artistic gene.
Right.
You know, her own genetics have been moved by those songwriters.
Right.
Numerous of songwriters for every album she's ever had.
Right.
So coming to myself in Job Corps as a writer, I realized that, okay, this is my passion and I can do this every day. I can take a long walk and come up with a song. I can get on a bus and write a song. I can write a song anywhere, anytime, any place.
Is that fast for you? You can do that fast?
Yes.
That's incredible to me. Like, I have a lot of friends that are producers, and when they like put together a beat and like they play it, and I'm just like, how did you do that? Like in 10 minutes or 15 minutes or however long it takes in a short period of time while I'm with them, and they just create this thing and this song. And
Well,
I'm just
I had to really learn how to listen to an instrumental or a beat and write for it, because for so many years, decades, I would write my own song and I already hear the song in my head. So it was hard and challenging to, okay, Nancy, write to this instrumental, write to this beat. I was stuck for a long time. Let's say a couple years. Like, I can't write. I can't. I found
Really?
yeah, I couldn't.
You got so that's interesting, because it's like, is that like what they would call writer's block?
Writer's block can happen regardless of style or approach to songwriting. But I think that was more of a habitual, like, breaking doors down about the way I approach songwriting from the beginning.
So was it 2 years of you like not writing anything, or was it
It was more than 2 years that it was hard.
Was it like you would try to write something and you just couldn't do it? Was it like an emotional state where you couldn't figure it out?
I will call it more of a spiritual clog system, because it was there, but it wasn't coming out. So I wasn't able to write it, or I wasn't able to express myself in format.
3 years. How did you keep the faith and to come back? Like, I find it very interesting when people take time off of something, because it's like, it's rare that people go back. Like, when you have failure. Like, I know a lot of people that stop like doing sports because, you know, they had these stints and losses, or they had an injury, and they're like, I don't want to go back. And it's like, I've had failure there. And it's like, but why not give it another swing, you know, after you've healed, after you've taken some time to get your mental right? How did you make it back to songwriting and not saying, you know what, I'm done with this?
Well, things happen in life that sometimes it's an overflow of emotion. And you look around you and I'm like, okay, I don't have a studio where I can dance. I don't have a studio where I can record. I don't have the equipment or the space. And you all you have is a pencil and a pen, and a pencil and a paper, and you just go for it, and it all comes out. I had my goddaughter and her family were murdered in Troy, December 2017.
Oh my God.
And that homicide broke me tremendously.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
And I just got it together and I started writing. And I wouldn't say that's when I started to write again, but I would say that's when I realized that's my only option.
How do you so the writing was to like help with the pain of that?
Yeah.
How do you like, as like you move through that lane of emotion, right, and come out the other side trying to be positive? Like, the positivity throughout the whole thing is like incredible to me, because it's like not giving up is very important, but I think people take like maybe taking a break as giving up, you know? Like, it's very like mentally driven. Like, I like for a long time I'm very hard on myself, and I think every artist in some sense of a form, like I'm considering myself more of an artist in like a conversational form than I am like as an artist anything else. But like for a long time it was like just like a block. Like I didn't have the confidence in myself to do it, and like throughout the process I stay positive with like, hey, this is gonna get better. How do you stay through that, like when the emotional way is like 10 times more aggressive? Like
it's challenging. I can't. I'm gonna be very transparent. I'm still in a place where there is anger, and the way I decided to express it is by challenging that anger, challenging its limits in the safest, more constructive way, I can say. There is still a space for compassion and love towards anyone who has caused any harm emotionally to me. And songwriting is an outlet for those emotions. But constructively, I can say that, being flexible in any emotion is very important. I cannot sing because I start to cry. Don't ask me to sing because I feel like I'm gonna cry.
Oh,
so
that's interesting.
Right, I haven't mastered how to bust a tune without touching
an emotion.
Right.
That's interesting.
But I can write about it.
That's so interesting. That's something like composure, like, right, for like for an artist, right, for a singer especially. Like, I don't think like people like me who are not involved directly with singers on a daily basis, it's hard for me to understand that. Like, when you see like Beyonce just wailing
I don't know how
and like singing about kids and relationships, I don't understand like how she even goes and like, maybe she does cry, we don't know, because we will never know in that family. But I think just like, how do you not like get emotional? Like, Halo was an emotional song. Like, I was going through a tough time at my I was going through a tough time in my life, and when I heard that song, I was like, holy shit. I heard it through headphones on shuffle on Pandora. Shout out to Pandora. That's what got me hooked. They had a system back then. Okay. Like, and that just came on. I was like, oh man. Yeah. I was like, oh God, like, just like tearing up. I'm just like, how do you go and record something like this? Like, because there's no way you write that song without emotion, right?
There's no way.
Like, there's no way she's sitting there in a bathtub with like $1 billion eating grapes and like, oh, this is the song, or like a songwriter comes up to her and is like, here's a song. She's like, this is great, I'm gonna go record this, and just goes and does that. There has to be emotion at some level. There has to be. So it's like, it's interesting to hear you say that, like, you can't get emotional without, or sing without getting emotional, because it's very emotional for you.
Well, that would mean that I'm listening to my emotions,
right? Yeah,
my own. So that means all my senses would have to be applied to that expression. In that moment, I will have to feel, express verbally something I wrote. Feel it and hear it all at the same time. And I haven't been in that place where I can do that at all. But when it comes to hip hop, there's aggression.
Right.
And that's what I'm familiar with, whether it's a song about love in a hip hop form or a song about haters in a hip hop form.
Right. So as a songwriter, like, I find it interesting, like, you create a song, right?
Yes.
How difficult is it when you create a song for somebody and then they start changing some things to, like, check your ego, right? Because it's like, when you're a songwriter, you're trying to create with somebody, but you're a very creative person, and you create this whole format and this whole layout of a song, and you've worked hard on it, and then you hand it to somebody, and they're just like, I'm going to change this, and I'm going to change this, and I'm going to change this, and you're just sitting there just like in your head like,
don't ruin the song.
Yeah, exactly. You're ruining it.
Right. Well,
how do you deal with like that ego check, or like that emotional state where it's like, don't do that? Like,
well, every sit down, every meeting, every greeting is a collaboration. My decisions are based on, are we going to work together, and what do you want to express? Once you share with me some of who you are and what you're going through or what you want to say, then, throughout the whole project, it is a collaboration, and I'm always willing to bend to suit, because it's not, I won't be performing it, so it has to suit the artist. Some words and terminology or expressions have to be tweaked a bit, to fit the creator.
Right.
As a songwriter, I have to be flexible with who I'm working with pertaining to how they want to approach. Some people rather just say, okay, Nancy, write me a song. This is what I'm going through. I'm going through a breakup. Write me a song. And they'll follow it word for word. Words that they would never use. They follow it word for word. And there are other people and other artists that, hey, 50-50, I'll come up with the chorus, I'll come up with a verse, and mix it all together. Let's work. It just depends on who I'm working with and how they enforce their creativity.
Yeah, as someone who's now working with people a little bit more creatively, like before I would just very much in the background to all my friends doing this and like seeing their frustrations, and I'm just like, don't know what you're talking about, man, because I'm in like school, like, so I'm just doing school shit, like I'm getting homework and I'm just like getting shit done, and it's like, don't know what you're talking about, like in a creative sense, like of their frustrations. And then I start doing stuff, and then, you know, you're getting like, I want to do this or I want to change this, and you're just like, what is going on here? Yeah, I'm just like, do you understand I'm working, like this isn't an instant thing. And I think like I have to deploy a lot of empathy into like people not understanding, people not being able to express themselves in a professional manner, right? Because like some words I gotta understand are just like, this is the way the person is, like, you know what I mean, this is the way they talk, they don't know how to be a little bit more professional or have empathy for what I've done,
Right.
you know. So I think what I personally have to do is deploy a lot of empathy when I'm working with a lot of creative people, because like my creativity is not their creativity,
Right.
my sense of humor is not everybody's sense of humor,
Right.
you know. So I have to be like, so I gotta just be aware of that stuff. And as like someone who's new to the creative field, I'm very new, very green, so like going around working with people and talking to people, and I'm just like I said, this woman here is the most professional person I've talked to. I've talked to a lot of you people, you know who the fuck you are. Like, getting back to me in a timely manner, very professional, setting times and dates, like, let's, you know, like just be professional. Like, it's so aggravating to me. It's like, we have so much hours in a day and so much time in a day, and it's like, just like, communicate with me if something's happening or you need to move the date or something's happening over here or you don't like the aesthetic and stuff like that. Right. Or if I'm trying to create something for somebody, like, hey, why don't you be here and edit with me, like, right, and like point out what you want. Like, so that leads me to another question where it's like, how aggravating is it to you when someone like tells you like, hey, write a song, and they like it, they're not putting in their creative like forefront. Like, in your 16 years, you've had to work with people who is like, hey, write me a song, and then they'll just be like, hey, I need some input from you. I can't just create this thing. Or it's like, you create this thing and you go into it, and then they're like, I want to change this and this and this, and you're just like, why didn't you tell me? Why aren't you here working with me? Like,
right. Well, one thing I had to master is how to turn America Ray off, so that not too much of my identification as an artist goes into someone else's project. I wouldn't want someone else to sound like America Ray. We have songwriters that write for many artists, and you can pinpoint, that sounds like that songwriter, or that sounds like that writer.
Really?
Drake has written for many artists. And sometimes you can tell by the momentum of the song who wrote the song. So it's important as a songwriter not to get too upset, because of course in a professional setting there will be, you know, legal terms and paperwork in place to allow you to take a step back and allow the artist to collaborate with you again. Collaboration is important, but America Ray has to be put in the back burner when I'm writing for someone else and they're experiencing something completely different than where I'm at in life.
How did you learn to do that?
Well, as an artist, you just need to develop the confidence to be creative, the confidence to identify yourself, to stay true to yourself. And I need to hold my experiences dear to myself, to me. So I wouldn't want to tweak lyrics for someone else based on what I feel, what I've been through. So I kind of try to tweak it with, okay, we'll use these words that I'm aware of, but we'll bend it to suit you. You know, I think becoming a master of words and learning vocabulary and learning how to express and take your time when you write and speak is imperative. It's very important. It's the highlight of a songwriter is words.
Do you think songwriters get enough credit?
Within their own society, I think in the class of songwriting, I think different genres respect songwriters more than others. I think country singers and country artists, those songwriters get more respect,
right?
More notoriety.
Mm-hmm.
But I think songwriters are what holds part of the pieces that hold composure together when it comes to the composition of a song.
I think a lot in my understanding of songwriting to me is much like a writer's room for a sitcom or a show, where it's like there are 10 people in this room who wrote that fucking dialogue.
Oh yeah.
And it's like those people get no credit. You just know who the people on Law and Order SVU are, and you're just like, who wrote the 10 people in the room who wrote that entire season, right. And they get the credits at the end, but you just don't know. Like, as a person who just didn't know before, and they're like, nah man, like one of my buddies who writes, and he's like, nah, there's 6 or 7 of us in a room who are just like sweating it out 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, getting it back from the people who are above us with things crossed out. Now we got to blend it together for each of the characters.
Burning
and I'm just,
the brain.
I'm just like, and then with songwriters, it's like, when I heard about songwriting and then you hear about ghostwriting, and it's like, why is it so just like frowned upon in the hip hop community that, oh, you have a ghostwriter, when in like you said, country and like some of like the other genres, you get a lot, there's like more notoriety for songwriters to work with people like Taylor Swift and like the Tim McGraw. I was gonna say Tom McGraw. I was like, and all these people. What do you think the disconnect is?
Well, bootleg versus non-bootleg. When we speak about a ghostwriter, you're talking about, hey, I need a song, here's $600, or the hookup, or somebody that is not legit on paper legally as a writer. So technically, I'm in that middle space where I can be someone's ghostwriter and I can be someone's legit songwriter because I'm associated with ASCAP. Okay. So I have the format of still being flexible with the financials or without the financials, because I'm in a place where I am open to expanding my creativity in any way, like feed my soul so I can grow. Right. But a ghostwriter is still as skilled, if that. They know more, or they can be quicker to express themselves, so they don't take as long as a songwriter who's established. I'm gonna, right. They come in and the paperwork and the process. So ghostwriter might be faster.
Cash at me the money and we got
faster,
this.
And the lyrics come flow faster.
Yeah, I guess with this new technology, right? This streaming, right? Getting songs out like that. Like, I need this turned over quickly. People can now record the whole song. One person in New York, one person in Cali. They never got to see each other. Paperwork's done. Money's in accounts. Like, so I think it's definitely interesting. Do you think that's tainted music a little bit?
Tremendously. I think just technology alone, going back to something you mentioned about songwriting and knowing the songwriters, I miss CDs. I still, because
they got credit on the back, right?
Yeah. I still go to the Salvation Army and try to get my CDs so I can familiarize myself with who are these songwriters, who are they, where they live, and their projects. Like, I didn't know this person wrote this song and this song and this song, because nowadays you just hear a song, the artist now, the current artist, and you don't know who wrote it, who collaborated, how many people sat in the room. Right. Who tweaked it, who gave you the pitch, who gave you or who taught you the momentum of how to express those lyrics. You don't know. You just know the performer.
Wow. Yeah, you're absolutely right, because like a lot of these people, like at the highest level, probably use someone to help. I mean, creativity has to be hard when you're at the top and you're now a business person. Like, It's not only that you have these songs and you have a commitment to maybe a label or something, but you have to do press, or you have to do marketing and performances. Like, I can't imagine like how stressful a performance is night after night, back on a bus, in a plane, going to another city, and just like performing the same thing. Not to add on top of that, you're probably drinking, you're probably doing drugs, you're probably having sex. Yeah. Holy shit. Like, how do you even live? Like, these people must be hollow. Like, I'm just like how do you do this? Like, so this is like, you at like the highest level, when do you have time to sit down and pen out a new song and then go in the studio and record a new song? Like, so I would assume like you have to take some of the stress off somewhere, and to collaborate with creative people, especially if the contract states that, you know, your credit is going to be very minimized, you know, as far as like the credit that's going to be given.
Right.
So in songwriting, is it like more of a subculture, do you think? Like comedians, like the comedy world, I feel like is a subculture. Skateboarding, like that world, subculture. Like songwriting, subculture, because there's just things we don't know that goes on in songwriting.
Right.
That we don't know, and then the people like you are just like pulling your hair out when you're just like singing a Drake verse, and you're like, you don't even know who wrote this song.
Right. Right. I mean, it is, and then it's not. I think there are so many components that feed into songwriting. We need a lot of environmental things to shift in and out to gain creativity.
Okay.
I take more of a healthier route to my creativity. So part of expressing myself, such as this podcast, taking a long walk, listening to music. So I binge on music. So I sit for like 3-4 hours and just sit there in my studio and just listen to music back to back, sing loud as I can, and binge heavy on music. And yeah, some people do drink and do other things to gain perspective on their approach. But those things are going to cut my time as a songwriter short. So I'm like, let me try other ways to.
Definitely. Yeah, it's definitely a good thing to like be definitely healthy and more creative, because I see some of these young people that are just popping pills and stuff like that, and it's like, let's go in the studio and record them. Just like, I understand it at like, if you don't have any responsibilities, you don't have kids, it's you're trying to live life, you're young, like I get it. I'm not trying to be like a father. I am a father, but I'm not trying to be dad in the group and be like, hey, you thinking about this right now? You're gonna do what and drink what?
Right.
Like I just hate hearing it, because it's like addiction is a real thing, like, and it's a slippery slope. Like I understand you're trying to be creative, you're trying to like lose the jitters and stuff like that. But it's a slippery slope. You do it 7 days a week for the last 3 years, and all of a sudden, you know,
it's temporary.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you don't have it, or you go through a tough time where you don't have money, and all of a sudden you get the shakes, and you're agitated. And I'm just like, and the worst part is the drinking. Like the pills and stuff like that, yeah, they'll kill you, but the drinking is the easiest thing to get to.
And those things are not long lasting. So it's important to pay attention as a songwriter to create words that can last decades, centuries. Beyonce has performed and has worked with so many diverse songwriters that her songs can be performed when she's in her 80s.
Right, yeah, because there's no like hip hop, not hip hop. There's no like pop culture words in her songs for the most part. Like there's not like slat. Like what is that going to mean in 10 years?
Right. Like, she has basic words that are expressive for centuries to come, you know, decades to come. And that's what I miss about centuries ago. Right. You know?
To pivot off of the technology thing, because like we've been talking about, like it might not be the best thing. I also think it's a very good thing for people to be discovered, to create a career and stuff like that. Like Lil Nas X to me was that person that showed like this technology thing is like, this is real. Like a guy who played video games, who made a music video about Red Dead Redemption 2, which is like a Western video game, made a song, like a meme, and then that took fire. Like I'm glad for him, because like in the old way of how the music game worked, like they would have laughed him out of the room. They wouldn't have never given him a deal. Right. Like, and he just made a hit, and hopefully that pays for him for the rest of his life. But that's why I like it, in the sense of like people can now be direct to consumer. There is no middleman where it's like people need to sign deals. And I've said this to a lot of people in private, like for like a lot of like artists, is like, if you get a deal, I wouldn't take it. I would try and take that money and do social media companies. Like go and look at the biggest social media company and try and sign with them, because what they're giving you is basically a loan. Like they're saying, here is $1 million up front. We want this $1 million back. We also want 5%. and you're gonna in some of these royalties.
And if you don't, we'll come after you.
Exactly. And it's like, wow, you're taking a big and if you have confidence in yourself and the deal's too good to pass up, don't listen to fucking me. But like, if you're like just new and starting out and you popped a little bit, like depending on the terms of your deal, I would say like try and do like a social media company, because like to promote yourself and your brand without having the middleman like to do all this stuff, you're gonna make way more money, get way more recognition and way more experience. Ownership. Yeah, a lot of people, I couldn't believe when I heard about this Taylor Swift thing with like someone holding her original songs or something like that. I'm just like, what a genius. Like someone was like, I'm gonna take advantage of this teenager because she has no idea. I'm gonna push an ungodly amount of money in her face, and they're not gonna check the details of the contract. Like I'm not gonna say I would have if I was like Taylor Swift's age and someone's like 17 million. I'd have been like, you could take what the hell you want.
I always say you can do anything you want, but not my writing. Don't touch my publishing. Don't touch my writing. I am the creator and the developer. Don't touch my image and not my writing. We can negotiate anything else, but nothing that has to do with my image or my writing.
Yeah, that's good that you have that line, because I was like, I couldn't believe it. Like, and she's like fighting for them, and they're worth like
it's in a fine print. It's in a fine print. If you don't take a pencil and write every line and have an entertainment attorney with you.
Yep, I 100% agree. Some of these businesses are funny. Like, it's a sticky situation, but for like those deals, I'm just like,
we've come a long way. So much money was presented to artists that are not with us anymore. They've taken that. And they can't pay you back. You get intoxicated because of the stress, and then you lose your life in debt.
That's what happened to Bad Boy, didn't it? Like in my honest situation,
many more.
In my honest assessment, because it's like those, like Bad Boy signed a ton of artists, gave them a ton of money, and it's like, I was just like, is that a play on like a loan situation? Like, are you just like banking on the interest, and if they can't pay, you're just gonna repo everything? Like, I was just like, the artist development there just wasn't the best. And like, I look at like these things now, and it's like, I think artist development is like a lot more independent, where someone was like, wear this, do this, say this. And it's like, yeah, there's still people that do that now and are associated with those companies, but I think a lot more of like, be independent and be who you are.
Take control. Take control. Stay in control. Study. I do a lot of reading. It's important.
I don't do a lot of. I do audiobooks. I do audiobooks.
Well, that's important too. You have to. If I'm gonna visit a zoo, I want to know the demographics of where I'm going. Who I'm gonna see there. What animals are gonna be there, and what about the animals that would interest me if I'm gonna go see them.
Jesus. Way more prepared than I am.
Well, I want to know what I'm getting into. So and every day things are changing. Equipment is changing. So the equipment that I finessed my studio with 2 years ago, I need an upgrade. So it's like,
computers move way too fast with these iPhones and stuff. It's like bang, bang, bang.
You gotta tweak it. You gotta be able to study and move with its momentum.
What you've been saying a lot of is like just market study. Like, you listen to a lot of the music, you listen to the market. You work with and you're collaborating with a lot of different artists in songwriting and in ghostwriting. Like, you're speaking to a broader market. Like, you're doing a lot of market research, and you're feeling a lot of the market out, where it's like, instead of like being silent to and just listening and just doing one thing, you're out here doing many things. And I think that's a good recipe for success. Because if you strangle yourself in one demographic, like I know a lot of people are just like focusing on hip hop, and it's like, or in my opinion, producers, like rappers, you got to focus on hip hop, but producers, I'm just like, like some of these people are so talented, and it's like, I wish you would expand just a little bit past this, because I think you're missing an entire market that would just hop all over this. Like, my one friend played me a song the other day. I was like, you got to give this to a K-pop artist. He's like, what? I was like, K-pop. I was like, they're huge. I was like, I was like, you gotta, that's what I'm saying. I've been around music a long time, but like, the K-pop market is huge. Like, you would. He's like, and it's like,
goosebumps again.
I was like, hey, you gotta watch out that Asian market,
right? And you can split the rights. You can split the rights. So you can give it to a single artist, and you can an independent artist, and you can give it to a group. Of 6 members.
Yep. Those royalties look nice, man.
Yeah, come on, stretched, you know.
So as a songwriter, when you look at your 16 years, what are some of the things you're most proud of?
I'm proud of doing some opening acts for local artists. I performed alongside with Cassidy in 2014.
Oh, wow.
He came to RBC in Troy.
Legend.
Yeah, and I admire his skill of freestyle. Like, I don't have that skill, but but I admire that that prompt, responds to his thoughts.
Oh yeah, those people.
Like thought communicate is so rapid. It's a skill that he has mastered. Traveling in and out of the city and gaining supporters, getting to know my friends who support me has been an amazing journey so far. One of my biggest goals as a parent and as an artist is to open a big studio in New York City where families can come in, have daycare, record. Why hasn't anyone done that for us?
Might have to take that out.
yeah. I need you to do that. I need people to expand, like you said, spread your wings.
And that's what we look to do, and like the business we're looking in right now for myself is like, why not go into these schools and like set people up? Like I go to my son's school and it pisses me off. I see these Windows 10 machines. I'm like, what are you teaching these kids? Like, we're in the era of TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, streaming and stuff like that, and these kids are making a killing. I'm worried my power went out today because I didn't pay my bill. This guy's making $7 million on a Nerf video.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Right.
So it's like we're in this era of marketing. Granted, I think it's going to shift, but like school's always so far behind.
Right.
Like they're 5 years behind, and by the time you're done training, like you said, the technology is different, especially today. Everything is new. Everything is so much better than the last thing. And you look at it and you're just like, why? Like, I want my kids to learn math, history, how to write a sentence, 100%.
At home.
I can't do that at home. I don't have the patience as teachers do.
Right,
I think teachers are very, very crucial. It's good teachers. I just don't have patience for kids, and I have patience for my son, but like when it's learning, I get very frustrated.
Right. I agree.
I don't understand how my parents did it or my mom did it.
Right.
I don't understand how some of the teachers that like changed my life did it. I'm just like, how do you deal with these shithead kids? Like I was an okay kid. Like I would tend to shift towards being a shithead, and then these teachers would be like, you're too smart, come over here.
Guilty. Guilty. I think my intentions are, I think it's worth the investment. Let's just say $15 an hour, 5 hours a day. You know, every child's time is as valuable as an adult. Okay, half a day from 7 to 4 p.m., $15 an hour, and then for the rest of the day, your child can participate in a YouTube video where eventually it can pay off.
Definitely. That's why I wanted to go in and get them to like play with some more inexpensive equipment.
Yes.
You know, give them the starter cameras, the starter lenses, teach them about all these things, because a lot of them know it. Like some of these kids know so much about YouTube, about thumbnails, Photoshop, and stuff like that, and you're just like ahead of where I am. I have no idea how to do some of this stuff. Like, you guys are making all these videos about yourself on a phone. It's like, so to go in there and to be able to, from like you said, from the evening times for schools to do this stuff with athletics as well, because I think athletics is a huge part that seems to be straying away from. Like Rensselaer City like didn't have enough kids to fill their senior football team, and I'm just like, I understand the football thing, it's like head trauma and the rest of it, definitely understand where you're coming from, but like, come on, like we can't, like, this is sports. Like, we need to like get people to play sports.
Recruit,
like,
move around, recruit.
That, and also just like, you're not gonna have your athleticism forever. Like, I try to tell like people who stop doing sports, it's like, I especially if they've been doing it a long time, like I understand, but people who are like, yeah, I'm done. It's like, you understand, like when you're 30, your knees are gonna feel terrible, and you're not gonna be able to do all this stuff you're able to do now.
Right.
Like, you're in your prime, like you should be out there doing things. Like, granted, it does come with injury if you go a little bit too hard, but like I think it's still like very important to like do sports, and that's why I try to encourage my son to do. Like, oh, they're bigger than me, and like, that's life, man. They're gonna be bigger than you. Like, so have fun while you're at it, because you're not going to be able to do this forever. Like, there was a one point in time we played our last, like, game with our friends, like an aggressive, like, competitive game, and then never did it again.
Yeah.
And it's, like, sad to think about, like, how much fun we had, like, just running around as kids, and now I don't want to sound like an old person again, but it's just like, you see people on their phones and playing games. It's like, come on, man, let's go, let's throw a football.
Yeah.
Let's play some basketball. Like, bullying's not good, but, like, someone has to learn how to fight here. Like, there's no way all these kids are getting taken today. Like, what happened back then? Like, did kids just know how to fight back then? Where they were just like, that's what I told my son. I was like, I'm super paranoid about what happens today, so I'm trying not to be super overprotective of my child, because my dad was super overprotective of me about going out, but I want my kids to kind of experience a little bit outside, like how to deal with, like, people that are just shitheads. Like, don't get caught up in their shitheadness. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just stay back a little bit. It's not worth the trouble. And to be able to communicate that to kids now who are just like,
stuck.
I don't understand.
Like, it feels a little bit of a stillness that's going on with the immobility of social media. There's a stillness that's occurring.
I think there's, like I said, we talked about positive and negatives, right? There's definitely two things of both, right?
Yes.
It's good to learn all these things, but at the same time, it's good to do the other.
Yes.
So, do you still have time? I know you had to get out of here.
Yeah, I gotta be going.
Okay,
so.
well,
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming out here and having this dope conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. I love to hear the perspective of others. Where can people find you?
You can find me everywhere on Instagram, America Ray, and Red Queen of Rage on Instagram as well. I have 2 pages that entertain my music.
Okay.
I just got on Reverb Nation.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a song up.
Very nice.
That I'm interested in seeing what kind of feedback I get.
Okay.
And I'm on Facebook as well, that entertains those that are close to me and whoever wants to become a friend and be entertained. America Ray. And Twitter, America Ray.
There we go. We'll make sure we link that all in the description of the video. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. America Ray, thank you for stopping by. And we'll see you guys next week.